All right, and we are live for the first time and last time, Riley. We are,
This is the first time we've ever been
I
live.
don't know what first time. We're ready off to a rocky start. Welcome into From College to Combine. As always, I am your host, Michael Sicoli, at Michael__ Sicoli on Twitter, and joined by Riley Millette, at Riley_Millette. Both of us now in at the same house, except a couple stories apart. I'm in the attic, he's in the basement. He's got a nice little crib set up next to him.
Yeah, right? Pretty
Yeah.
sweet.
How you doing today, Riley? How you doing?
It's hot out. We don't have AC in here.
You don't. You have a fan though. You know.
Yeah, I guess that
I'm
works.
sure it's doing God's work down there. You know.
If you can call it God's work.
You know if this is gonna be an off the rails episode.
This is God's work.
This is the last one. We might be picking up the show again in January, but as of this is gonna be the last show for a little bit. The last time you get to see Riley's lovely mug for a bit. You're still going to be able to check me out at IDP Guys, at idpguys.org, at IDP Guys on Twitter. I'll be doing a weekly waiver show with my guy, Axton Harding, starting up either probably 2 weeks from now, once we get close to the season. Every single Tuesday, running through a live show. Again, at IDP Guys. But of course, you're watching here on For Frequency's Sake at FFSQC. Great guys, great show, great content always coming out from them. Give them a follow. Subscribe if you're not, because they gave this show a shot. And as Riley can attest, it's been a smashing success.
Great success.
Yes. And speaking of great success, we're going to talk with the players that are going to lead you to exactly that in your fantasy football seasons. The must drafts, the players that you are willing to be made fun of, Riley, that you have this take now. You say, this guy is going to do this. And if it is wrong, you are going to accept major responsibility next year, type of thing. All right. All right, this is a flag planting episode. Okay, are you ready for that?
Yes, couldn't be more.
You don't sound ready.
Faffing about.
You're
not faffing about.
You're not faffing about. Okay, sometimes Riley, I swear, because I won't lie. I'm gonna let people in on a little bit of a secret here on our show deck. Riley, you want to read what your choices are right now?
You read them.
Okay, well,
and I want to see if you know who any of them are.
Riley has not put down players, for example. So, you know what? Before we get too far off the rails, let's just get into it. Let's just get into the my guys, the flag plants, the players that you cannot leave your draft without, the must drafts. Mr. Millette, you take it away. You kick us off. You kick off our final segment of this show.
So when I was putting these guys down on the dock, I put them, nicknames so that I know who they are when I see them, but Mike doesn't. He can't really guess who they are. So we're going to start with Slime. This guy, we're going to call him Slime. Do you think you know who it is? All these names are pretty similar to...
I do know who this is now.
Yes. I mean, this one's pretty obvious. He's a friend of the show.
Good friend of the show. Great listener.
Good friend of the show, this guy is. He's going in the 6th, 7th round of your fantasy drafts. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is my first flag plant of the year. It's been well documented both on this show and in mainstream media that this is his first full offseason playing healthy. I was a little worried about his his running back competition coming in, but I think Isaiah Pacheco has proven that he was a training camp flash in the pan and that he's not very good.
Has he proven
Ronald Jones? Yes, yeah, he has.
Where did he prove that? I kind of agree, but where did he prove that?
He's struggled in pass protection. He's struggled to run the ball. That's been pretty well documented. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been, as every beat reporter has said, the best running back of the group. And whether or not that speaks much, it's been. I'm pretty confident that he's going to get most of that volume. So I'm moving forward. I'm saying this is I think a solid running back on a great offense, and who is going to get most of the work, barring some sort of injury like he's dealt with for his entire career. Ronald Jones is probably going to get cut. Jerick McKinnon might sneak in there for some third downs. And he had a pretty strong playoff run, but I'm not worried about him long term. He hasn't been much of a factor in training camp, so flag plant. Okay. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right in his little helmet.
I feel like we've been doing this dance for 3 years now with
Yep, that's true.
But
everything is different this year, though. See?
Yeah, it's interesting because he should be on paper the 3-down back. Being a first-round pick with the only competition being a 7th-round pick and a dismal old man Jerick McKinnon and Rojo, who's not making the roster. But players don't get 3rd downs. They don't get 3 downs without being good. They don't. So I don't really know how Clyde gets 3 down work when he's not that guy. And my bigger worry is the goal line. Like, he's been historically bad on the goal, like really bad. Well, like, you can probably score better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the goal line.
I mean, we're the same height, just about.
Yeah. So if he doesn't do that well, I don't know who even gets that role. Like, I think we're just going to see Patrick Mahomes throw in the red zone more than we've ever seen in our entire life. And I don't think they're going to ever try to run it. We might see more Travis Kelce rushing touchdowns than anyone else. Like, well, I don't know. I like the pick in as like a 0 RB format, as a decent upside pick at a 6th-round price. The price is good enough now. I think it's fallen far enough that I do agree with you there.
They've overcorrected. These people have overcorrected on the dismal downfall of the injured Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm not going to let it happen for another year.
It's definitely possible. Now I'm gonna bring up another player. My first flag plant.
Your first no nickname, I know who it's going to be, flag plant.
Yes, because we don't need to mess around with this player. It's Chase Edmonds, someone I've mentioned on the show before, someone that we talked about since April, because since March, because on the first day of free agency, when we were doing this show, when we were doing live, we were doing reactions to the signings. Someone was a day 1 free agency signing. It was Chase Edmonds. They went out. The Dolphins went out and signed him with this new staff. They gave him a decent amount of money to come in and be their running back. We are now 6 months later. His competition remains Sony Michel and Raheem Mostert, of which Sony Michel has not. No one's shown out in camp more than Chase Edmonds on the Dolphins running back crew. Raheem Mostert has not played football really in 2 years, and he's 30, and he's not good, and he's never been durable. Chase Edmonds is by far the best talent with the best opportunity on the Dolphins team, which is a much better offense now, where Tyreek Hill is at it, Jalen Waddle is at it. Yes, that does help the passing attack, but that helps the offense. That boosts passing, that boosts touchdown upside. Like, Chase Edmonds has the opportunity to be a 6 to 8 touchdown scorer while being the efficient back that he's always been, with volume. Like, it's all set up for him. And you have never, ever paid more than an RB3 price point for him. You're always getting him in the 7th round. It's such a smash value pick, Riley, that he will be a top 20 running back this year. I'll lock in top 24, but I am confident that he'll be in the top 20, and you're drafting him at RB 34 or so right now, 30. And he's rising, but he's not going to rise quick enough for those redrafts that are going on right now. It's August 25th, all right? The ADP is where it's going to be, kind of. So, Chase Edmonds, the guy that they held him out of preseason because he was their guy. He's going to be your guy for fantasy as well. He's a smash pick in the 7th round. Great value. What do you think, Roulette?
The value is great. I've been taking him on a lot of drafts as well. The devil's advocate would say that Raheem Mostert is coming over from the Mike McDaniels 49ers team, and he could have a solid amount of leash just in that respect. But even if that's true, Raheem Mostert won't be on the field for very long just because of his injury history and because of how serious those injuries are. Chipped cartilage in his knee and things like that. Those are big-time injuries that are not like an ACL. Like, we've seen running backs come from ACL injuries and still look somewhat like their former selves. And there's just not as much history for those kind of injuries for a guy like Raheem Mostert to stay on the field, which puts Chase Edmonds in the driver's seat.
And that's the other side of it, is this is the 49ers system. Yeah, sure, that helps Raheem Mostert. He's familiar with it. But he's never played more than – hold on, let me like, Mostert's never out there. Like, and if he is, he'll have a role. But it won't be the valuable role. Like, he'll break off a run, and that's valuable, but it'll be the early downs. Edmonds gets third downs, and he's just better with his touches. So we want 49ers backs. Every year we are chasing 49ers backs. And we kind of have that here in Miami, except you're paying a 7th round. You're getting him for much less than Elijah Mitchell, who carries so much more risk to me than Chase Edmonds. It's just Edmonds was the RB17 through 8 weeks last year before getting injured. And then he got hurt and he wasn't really back. That role right there, RB17, with a lesser lesser volume share, where he was splitting it with James Conner, he was splitting it with, a very spread offense in Arizona. He can easily repeat RB17 in Miami, and I think it's just a smash value for me. What is your next flag plant, Riley?
Next guy, I just wrote down the word chucking. Do you know what that might mean?
I don't know that one. I do not know that one.
You don't. All right. So we're gonna go ahead. Give me a guess.
Is it Trey Lance?
No, it's not Trey Lance.
Okay.
Chucking because he can throw the ball far.
Also because he trucks. It's kind of a double metaphor. But go on. Give me your.
All of these nicknames are like similar to their real names. So this one's Courtland Sutton. Chucking is Courtland Sutton.
That's terrible. That is the worst thing you have said on this show today.
Hey, the only purpose is so that you don't know who it is, and I achieved that. So you're welcome. Anyway,
go.
So in the one of the redrafts I'm doing, we came out with the draft order early, and I'm the first overall pick. So how my drafts have been going is Jonathan Taylor, because it's a half PPR league, and then I come around in the second and take either a running back or wide receiver and then tight end. And then when I come around to the 4 or 5 turn, Courtland Sutton is always there, and that's a smash pick for me. He's shown, he's a Pro Bowl wide receiver. We've talked about all this before. Pro Bowl wide receiver, has never played with a strong quarterback. He's had some really solid seasons. He's had 1,000-yard season in 2019 when he was a Pro Bowler. Still had 700-plus yards this last year with a mishmash of poopy quarterbacks. And now that the offense is so much better with Russell Wilson and new coaching staff with Nathaniel Hackett calling plays, a strong offensive mind, like we've seen him run a very strong offensive system in Green Bay for a while. The price on him is right where he falls to me at the perfect point, and he has top 10 wide receiver upside. So I'll cash in on that and shoot for the ceiling with him.
So I have been vocal about Jerry Jeudy this offseason.
Yes, very much.
And throughout this month, I have sat back and thought. I am still in on Jerry Jeudy. I am still taking him ahead of Courtland Sutton, but it is very close to me, and I have zero problem with Courtland Sutton because I think Courtland Sutton has higher upside, where it's just touchdown potential. And you can't be numb to the reports. I believe Jerry Jeudy is that guy, but Courtland Sutton is the red zone guy. He's always been the big body guy. It makes sense that Russ is going to him. You have a tight end room that is not established either. So in terms of big targets on this team, Courtland Sutton is all they got. And he's a big freaking man. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I have been warming up to taking Sutton into my leagues. And my big resolution is to leave my drafts with a Viking, Charger, or Bronco. I do not want to leave my draft without one of them. And Sutton fits that bill. So I have no problem paying that price for the upside that he has and kind of that DK Metcalf role. I don't think he's the big play that DK Metcalf is, but he's the red zone threat, and he's it's just a good target. You want the wide receiver for Russell Wilson normally.
Mm-hmm. And your argument for Jerry Jeudy for a while was when Jerry Jeudy was healthy on the field last year, he was the alpha, he was the target commander, and that's true. I'm not taking away from that. It was very true. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. That could all change. I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jeudy still got a slightly higher target share, but the upside is with Courtland Sutton.
It's just the target difference where I think Jeudy could have more targets, but they're going to be less valuable targets because they're not. I don't think they're going to be as much downfield, and they're not going to be as many in the red zone. So I definitely see the merit behind Courtland Sutton. I am going to bring up another receiver though. We both went running back first. Now we're both going receiver second. This guy, it's finally going to happen, Riley. It's going to happen. With DJ Moore, is going to make the leap from the wide receiver 15 to 20 that he's been for the last 3 years, and he's going to jump inside the top 10 this year. I'll say he jumps into wide receiver 1 territory, but I think he'll jump into wide receiver 10, and here's why. So if Moore scored 7 touchdowns last year, he's been hovering on 4 for the last 2 years. Which, let me start with that actually. He has had the 5th most targets since 2019, and we've talked on the show about targets are earned, they're not given. He's that guy. 5th most targets, but he's only 12th in receptions, and that's because he has quarterback play that is abysmal, and the ball is 20 yards over his head. He's posted a full yard more in yards per catch than anyone else in that range, in that top 10 range. And players in that same yards per catch is Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf. Just good company right there. And also great fantasy assets. But Moore isn't in the same category as them because he hasn't scored touchdowns. And of those top 10 targets since 2019, nobody scored less than DJ Moore. He's scored 12 touchdowns since 2019, despite being top 10 in targets. The only other player that's close to it was Allen Robinson with 14. He's the only other player with less than 20. 4 players have more than 25. Now, you could think maybe he's not that guy. Maybe he's not a touchdown scorer. That's absurd. That's absurd because with any talent like DJ Moore, they can score touchdowns. It's just if they can get the freaking ball to them. And Baker Mayfield can get him the freaking ball. So if DJ Moore scored 7 touchdowns last year, let's say Baker Mayfield is good for 3 more touchdowns to DJ Moore. Not crazy, right, Riley? Not crazy?
No, not at all.
3 more touchdowns. He jumps from the wide receiver 17 to the wide receiver 12. And that's purely on touchdowns. That's without talking about the difference in receptions if we have on-target throws versus Kyle Allen and P.J. Walker and Sam Darnold. If we take all that out, if we just take that and we just focus on touchdowns, DJ Moore is the wide receiver 12. It's an easy pick as your wide receiver 2 in drafts this year because he does have upside despite he hasn't hit that yet. That upside still exists because he is still that type of player. And I'm not going to leave my draft without him. So just somebody I'm willing to get made fun of over type of thing. Because DJ Moore is that guy and he's got the improvement this year.
As I've talked about before, in the most recent Dynasty Startup draft we did, I took 3 running backs and then a tight end before I took a wide receiver. Nice apple. I took J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then I took Kyle Pitts. And I wouldn't do that strategy again because it's left me really hamstrung at wide receiver. But I've experimented it with redrafting this year, and guys like DJ Moore are the reason why I feel like it kind of works to go 2 running backs. Like if I'm drafting from the 101 to go Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, or some guy like that in the 2nd round, and then Mark Andrews. And so then I can get exactly.
It's an easy pick. I'm so in on it because I think the Panthers are going to be better than people think this year. I really do. I think Baker Mayfield is a huge step forward, and I think that defense is not that bad. You know, we talk about on the IDP end, you got Brian Burns, you got Shaq Lawson, you got Jeremy Chin, the legend, and not some young upcoming cornerbacks as well. Not exactly fantasy relevant, but good for NFL purposes. Now, before we get to our last names, Riley, do you have any honorable mentions you want to mention? If not, because I have one I wanted to.
Yeah. No, you go first.
Okay. I have 2, actually. So one is Kirk Cousins because, like I said, I don't want to leave a draft without a Viking. Kirk Cousins is the engine of that offense in a way because he's conducting it. So I love Kirk Cousins. I think the Vikings are going to pass a bit more. We talked about it all offseason about using more 3 wide receiver sets, going from a bottom 5 offense and 3 wide receiver sets to a top 5 offense, 3 wide receiver sets. That just increased the vertical passing game. That means a lot more for Kirk Cousins. Pocket passers still have upside. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You can always get him late in your drafts. I love Kirk Cousins. The other one I wanted to bring up was Christian Kirk, the guy that I briefly mentioned on this show, but someone I've wrote was a lot on last month. He commanded a 20 and 24% target share in 2018 and 2019. Then Hopkins arrives. And then Cliff Kingsbury is in his 2nd year. He establishes his air raid system of spreading the ball. No one gets a huge target share. And that target share dips because Hopkins is, he's a target monster. So I think Christian Kirk's breakout was kind of stunted by both injury as well as Cliff Kingsbury as well as Hopkins in a way. And I think now he's got that chance to revive in Jacksonville as the wide receiver 1 and you're getting him as your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. So just another name that I really do like taking in my drafts. I don't think he'd be a top 12 guy, but top 24 for sure.
And the nickname I had written down for this guy was Kook, Kook. I took him off for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but it's Brandon Ayuk, who, based on all reports, has established a really strong chemistry with Trey Lance. It's cast a doubt. And the reason I took him off is because his ceiling is capped. I would say I would be shocked if he finished inside the top 18, 16 wide receivers, and maybe that's even a little bit high because he's playing alongside George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Plus, we don't know what size the passing volume is going to be in that offense. But I've been in love with the talent for a long time, and now that he's taken residence outside the doghouse and he has a quarterback that he has a strong relationship with, I think this could be a breakout year.
Let me interject for some breaking news, Riley. I'm not sure if you knew this or saw this, but our guy, TJ, Toy Lloyd Brown III, have you seen this news?
No, I haven't.
Our guy, for anyone joining in, I realize this is not fantasy football news, but our guy, our sports editor, our managing editor, our goat of a friend, is heading to Tennessee to cover high school sports with his first-time full job.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. Just to raise that out there. I want that on print. That guy is going to be a star someday. He's going to be covering the NBA, NFL one day. He's just that guy. So, with all that said, let's head to our final flag plant, Riley. Final flag plant.
Okay.
Do you want to end it, or do you want me to end it?
Let me go next.
Okay.
Because I've been thinking about this guy for quite some time.
Please.
Right. Okay, Juan. That's what I have written down for this guy. Okay, Juan. Who do you think? Give me a guess.
What am I
no guesses, do you?
I
You don't have a single guess.
Not a clue
Oh, my goodness.
what that means.
All right, Saquon Barkley. That's my final guy. I've done plenty of drafts, and in 8 and 10 team leagues, which some of my leagues are, where he falls to me at the 2-3 turn, and based on every training camp account, that's what I'm using as a basis for a lot of these guys because that's all we have to go on. You have to trust the beat reporting, but every report says that he's looking healthy, and this offense is trending up with the arrival of Brian Dable. Daniel Jones is kind of on his last leash. I'm not sure how much passing volume they'll give him because they know what he is, right? And they know what Saquon Barkley is when he's healthy. As he proved last year, Saquon Barkley was good when he was healthy, except for that one game. I think it was against the Steelers. But by all accounts, he's looking healthy, and he's one of the most talented backs in the league when he's healthy, probably top 5. And you're getting him at the price of RB 10 to 12. And I think as long as everything goes right, which I think it will, I think everything goes right, RB 10 is his floor. It's just
I completely agree. And let me run something by you because I recently took Saquon Barkley in the IDP Guys Masters League. It's a super flex league, and it was a very unusual start for me. I'm drafting at the 108. I took Christian McCaffrey at the 108. Didn't go quarterback. Went Christian McCaffrey at the 108. Mm-hmm. And I came around. I took what did I even take? Took a quarterback. All right, that's the gist of it, right? I took a quarterback. I think I took Russ. And then I took Saquon. I rarely have that opportunity to even take Saquon, but I do think he's going to be one of the best running backs in fantasy this year. Where we have totally forgot that he was the RB1 2 years ago, like the RB1 overall. And that offense was also terrible without a competent coach, which I do think Brian Dable is. So I think I love the pick, and you're getting him at the back end of RB1s right now. And I think people are wising up to him. I think he's rising very fast in ADP, but he's still someone I love to have on my team. So I'm all for that, 100% supportive. My last name, Mr. Millette. Are you ready for it? You ready for the last name?
Yes, please.
Okay. I put this one down ahead of those other honorable mentions because the value at finding a breakout tight end is a lot more than a lot of other positions. Because if you can take one late and they live up to a 4th-round ADP, that is a difference maker compared to a 6th-round wide receiver breaking their 3rd-round round ADP, whatever. Cole Kmet is that name. Now, I've talked about him a lot this offseason. I wrote an article about him on IDP Guys I believe it was May. So I've been on this Cole Kmet train for a while because Cole Kmet did not score touchdowns last year. Didn't score one. That is going to regress because A, Jimmy Graham's gone. He did take some surprising amount of red zone work. B, Cole Kmet is good. Cole Kmet is a good player who's always been. He's flashed that athletic upside in the past on limited work. And now he enters this offseason as the guy, as the full-time target. We saw him even in preseason last week where Cole Kmet commanded 3 targets on the first drive. And it was super fun to overreact to that because it was a preseason game. But Cole Kmet has to be the number 2 target for the Bears. And he's also happens to be that guy. He happens to be a really freaking good player. So I think we're going to be talking about Cole Kmet as a very good pick down the road. I don't think he could be the tight end 1. I don't think he could be the tight end 2 or 3. But I think 4 or 5 is right in the realm of outcomes. And getting him at tight end 10 or 11 or 12. So Cole Kmet, a guy with opportunity in this dying Bears offense with just Darnell Mooney, with touchdown upside because he's the only player on that team that can catch touchdowns. I don't think any of us predict Darnell Mooney to be a big-time touchdown scorer. And while the Bears might not throw much, they will throw some in terms of touchdowns. And he has game scripts working his way, and he has an athletic profile. I'm very in on Cole Kmet, and the price has not gotten out of control like I thought it might. So I'm still very in.
I'm a guy who likes to pounce on my early tight ends. Very, very much so. I like to cash in on the top 5, but even if I end up punting, which just personally I would prefer those top 5, and if I don't, I'll try to settle in on the T.J. Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert tier. It's just something I believe in for fantasy, but there's plenty of there's a good case for taking wide receivers early, and taking a quarterback early, and taking a guy like Cole Kmet as your tight end late, which makes plenty of sense to me for every reason you said. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it's there's 215 vacated targets in Chicago. Like that's what it comes down to. There's still going to be a crappy team. They're still going to need to pass the ball, and there are 215 targets that have disappeared. The only players they've added is Byron Pringle, Equanimeous St. Brown. Those guys are not going to steal targets. Cole Kmet is the guy that can fill that void, and I think he's going to be able to stretch the field enough to be relevant for fantasy. I agree. I see some people talking about him on Twitter and dissing him because he's, it's a bad offense, and it's hard for a bad offense tight end to be successful because you need touchdowns. That's possible. That's definitely possible, and that's why I say top 5 instead of top 3. But I think Cole Kmet is that next best thing, and I like targeting top targets of up and coming wide receivers. So, or wide receivers, quarterbacks, and that's Justin Fields. So, I do like Cole Kmet. That is our flag plants. Those are our flag plants. Riley, you want to run through your list?
I'm gonna go Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Courtland Sutton, and Saquon Barkley.
And I'm going to go Chase Edmonds, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. If any of those names do not hit, you know where to find us on Twitter at Michael__Sicoli, as well as at Riley_Millette. Give us hell if those names don't hit, because we are telling you should not leave your draft. What's up?
I'll delete my Twitter account if Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yes. Riley will delete his Twitter account when Clyde Edwards-Helaire runs for 2 yards per carry again. So it's probably going to happen. But either way, that is our show. That is from College to Combine. And again, thank you to anyone who's been watching, is watching right now or watching afterwards, because this has been a super fun ride. And having anyone tune in to watch us mess around, give some fantasy advice, break down some players, it's been a total thrill. And hopefully we're going to be kicking this back up in January, and back when we have that draft cycle to go back to, January, February. We'll see what Riley's up to. He might I don't know. He might leave me. But yeah. But either way, there's still plenty of in-season content coming from both for frequency's sake at FFSQC on Twitter, YouTube, all that. Give them subscribe. Might mean nothing to you. It means a lot to everyone else. And same goes for IDP Guys at idpguys.org, IDP Guys on Twitter as well as YouTube. A lot of great content coming every single day from both those groups. Love the guys within. It's really great just to support them. So everything you do there means a lot to them, means a lot to us. And that is our show. That is from College to Combine. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope your fantasy seasons go super well. Again, Follow me on Twitter. Ask me any questions you got. We're ready to get this season going, Riley. Preseason's almost there, almost done. All right. Any final message for you, Mr. Millette?
Adios.
Adios. I'll put that on that note. Have a good night. Have a good day. It's midday.